Okay, so you remember in our Zoom meeting, we end at the point where the boys are making their feather bombs for the great plan, and they've been out robbing. Remember our funny pictures of things that they stole, and let's find out how they stole those. So Snotlout cheered up a bit because now you could show his amazing skills of burglary. He was a really good thief. He managed to steal Baggy Bum's knickers right off him as he was standing in a huddle in front of all of the others discussing his plan of action. Baggy Bum didn't even notice, not even when he reached a hairy hand down to scratch his great big bottom. He was too busy talking about bigger and better methods of yelling to even notice that his pants had gone. The boys then wrapped the feathers up in material so that they would fly out when the bomb was dropped, hence feather bomb. Each team of 10 boys was armed with about 100 of these feather bombs, all wrapped in a great parcel made out of an old sail from a ship. Hiccup led the hooligans towards the Long Beach, while Thuggery took the other gang of meatheads to the unlandable cove. The thin column of boys were all excited and chattering as they set off behind Hiccup, the leader, Wartyhog and Clueless dragging their sail at the back. The dragons circling and diving a couple of feet just above their heads. Vikings are pretty much fearless, having been bred as soldiers. So even Hiccup and Fishlegs had a surge of excitement at the thought of the battle that was about to come. But as soon as the monster came into sight again, the boys and the dragons instantly dropped onto their bellies and squirmed forwards with their heart beating hard. It was impossible that anything could be that big. Hiccup led them as near as he dared to the edge of the cliffs that were surrounding the Long Beach. They looked down on the terrible creature who was snoring in front of them. His nostrils alone were about the size of 6 front doors, and the smell that was reeking out of them made it difficult for the boys to breathe. Oh. Wartyhog, who had always had a little bit of a delicate stomach, he threw up disgustingly into the heather. Hiccup, Fishlegs and Clueless unwrapped the feather bombs and gave one to each boy. The boys called the dragons, as softly as they could, man, because they didn't want to wake the beast. And they put a feather bomb in each of their dragons' mouths. Look at, you can see which feather bomb that is in one of the dragon's mouth. They then stood up on the edge of the cliff with their dragons on their outstretched arms. This took about the same amount of bravery it might take you to leap off a mountain from 1,000 feet. Even with the monster fast asleep, the natural reaction was to stay away and hide. Hiccup tried not to breathe as to not to make noise. He lifted his arm to give the command to begin. Go! Whispered Hiccup. Go! Yelled back the boys, and 10 dragons flew up and circled around the massive sleeping head. Just as the Green Death inhaled, Hiccup shouted, now! And the dragons let go of the feather bombs. Pew, 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 pew. The Green Death took in a breath that was half air, but also half feathers. He woke with a gigantic sneeze. Achoo! As he shuddered and coughed, Fireworm, who was treading air near his right ear, gave a speech which went something like this. So you can imagine Fireworm, he's flying, he's just near the dragon's ear, and then he gives out a speech. Greetings, O Sea Dragonus, Persilimus, Minimus, from my father, the terror of the sea. He is feeling like feasting on the barbarian, and if you get in his way, he will feast on you. This is his speech to the other dragons. He's telling them to be careful. Swim away, little sea slug, and you will be safe. But stay on this island, and you will feel the sharpness of his claws and the fierceness of his fire. The great monster tried to laugh sarcastically. Yeah, whatever. And cough at the same time. But this is virtually impossible. And a feather went down the wrong way. Like maybe when you're drinking a glass of water and all of a sudden you choke on it, it's gone on the wrong way. Just like this feather, making him cough even more. Then Fireworm bit him on the nose. It must have felt like a flea bite, but the monster was absolutely outraged. He was so angry. Through streaming eyes, the Green Death made a swipe at this irritating dragon flea and missed. One giant claw tore down part of the cliff face instead. The 9 other dragons by this time returned to collect more feather bombs from the boys on the cliff. "Now!" yelled Hiccup, and with split-second timing, they let their bombs fly. They hit their target of the Green Death's nostrils, and he collapsed without coughing again. "You cannot win, puny worm!" cried Fireworm. "Wriggle back to the sea where you belong, and let my master have his supper." Now the Green Death was really angry. He bounded lopsidedly after Fireworm, trying to bat away this irritating little speck of dragon with his massive claws. But the Green Death had the same sort of difficulty catching Fireworm as you might have if you were to try to catch a blue bottle fly with your bare hands. Dragons are better than humans at those sort of games, but the Green Death just kept on missing because his eyes were streaming with water because he was sneezing and coughing. "Missed again!" sneered Fireworm, enjoying himself hugely. And she flapped just out of reach of the Green Death's claws. The Green Death made another wild leap for her as Fireworm flew on around the corner of the cliffs, steering the monster into the direction of the unlandable cove where the other boys were waiting. Hiccup and the boys ran after them as fast as they could, but they didn't have a hope of keeping up. Running through heather is not like running through is not unlike trying to run through knee-deep treacle syrup. It's not easy. And they kept disappearing up to their knees in the bog. As Fireworm and the monster got further and further ahead in their race along the shoreline, it took longer and longer for the other dragons to fly back to the boys and return with more feathers. The military commanders among you will recognize these kind of problems that happen when a supply line can no longer reach the forces at the front. Eventually, it was taking so long to reload that there came a moment when there were more feathers tickling the Green Death's nostrils and his eyes stopped streaming, and suddenly he could see the maddening Fireworm pinpoint clear. They'd run out of feathers. His eyes were clearing. The Green Death is about to become dangerous. He made a lightning reflex swipe at the red dragon, and he caught her in one gigantic claw. It was lucky for Fireworm that, at that very moment, the Purple Death came crashing round the corner and struck the Green Death heavily, bang, in the stomach. His grip loosened on Fireworm for a second, and she flew off, panting with relief. The Green Death sat down heavily in the sea and fought for breath. The Purple Death did much the same. So let's find out in chapter 15, the battle at Death's Head Headland. Ooh.